Hey, what's up, sales ascenders? Guess what? We're talking about profit. We're talking about revenue today. One of the most common things I hear and see other business owners doing is losing focus. Focus on revenue generating activities. If you want to refocus on those things, you're in the right spot. All right, in order to focus on or refocus on profit and revenue, we have another spotlight series as we continue this series. Our guest today, she is phenomenal at staying focused at profit and revenue generating activities. And here's why. She had 6 retail stores launched across the country, not in a nice little pile in her own little market that she drove around to, all over the country. Meanwhile, her family was growing. She has multiple kids. And then she eventually transitioned online and moved to Germany. Listen, time is precious and short to begin with. When we have limited time, and someone like our guest today, she didn't have a choice. She had to get very focused on profit and revenue generating activities, or she would not make it. She wouldn't survive. In fact, there was even some failures and road bumps along the way, and we get to hear about those today, which is why I'd love to introduce you to Miss Brittany. Brittany, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Doing fantastic. I'm really excited for this conversation because I have a habit of making messes. So I'm learning more about myself in this entrepreneur journey about 10 years in now. And I realize my default, I'm a high visionary. My default is like, this is a cool idea. Let's work all the time and go build it. And implementers, operators, systems are not my native tongue, but they are my lifesaver. And so I'm selfishly, in fact, we were just starting to look for a fractional COO a little bit, start beginning that conversation because we need help. So this is the area, and I know I'm not alone. So I know more people are coming on. If you guys are just jumping in, we're with Brittany talking about all things systems and staying focused on revenue generating activities. Before we get into, I know you prepared kind of like a top 3 things for us all to hear. Let's meet just you. Where did your entrepreneur journey start, Brittany?
Yeah, so mine started, I think, from a very, very young age. My father was an entrepreneur. So I was raised being around that, when you're little, you see your family and you think that's just normal. You don't realize other people live different ways. So that's very much how I grew up. And I remember going to my dad's office and if I did well, I could go to the paper closet and pick out notepads and pens to take all of that. That was so exciting back then. But that's just how I grew up. So I think it was never really an option not to work for myself. So just right out of the gate, it was like, okay, what business do I want to create was more of the question. So I went to fashion design school in London, and then I almost graduated, actually dropped out like a semester to go, true story, and then came home and founded my first LLC when I would have been 20, I think.
Oh my gosh. Okay. First LLC at 20, almost graduated, but you built this skill within fashion. Where did that take you?
So then I just started my LLC, and I was started with women's wear. Literally, I had my sewing machine that I had been given for my 7th birthday.
Yes.
And I was rinsing. Yeah, it was a little brother machine, shook when I sewed on it. And I had a loft that I rented from my parents. That was above a garage. So it was 1-bedroom studio style. And
I love it. Your dad's like, no, pay up.
My parents were tough love all the way. So which I'm thankful for. But I literally just sewed, and I got involved. I think, what did I do? I got in modeling because someone was like, oh, you can model, which I feel really silly saying that now. I'm wearing mom jeans and rarely get out of yoga pants.
Mom life. There we go.
But they're like, you should model. And since I didn't know anybody, because I had moved from London back to Kansas, and a lot of my friends left, and I didn't really know anyone anymore. So it was a really easy way to kind of get the foot in to the fashion scene that was going on in Kansas City. And it was through that I met, they were founded the Kansas City Fashion Week. That's how long ago it was. It didn't even exist yet. And so met them through my modeling, through the photographers that I'd met. And I was like, cool, how do I get in? I want to show at Fashion Week. This is all I want to do. And they were like, oh, sweetie, maybe next year, we've got auditions and it's 2 weeks away. You can't make a whole line in 2 weeks. And I was like, yeah, I can.
Watch me.
And I
I
was
got
like,
a
I love it.
shaking sewing machine. Watch me work.
I will do it. So they're like, if you can get it done. So I had to go in, meet with them. I had sketches, I had designs. I was like, this is what I want to do. And they're like, if you can get it, it was like a joke. I know they didn't think I could do it. And I was like, I can do it. And I did. And it was literally like 2 weeks of no sleep. And I hammered out, I think it was a 20 look design, which in fashion terms is like really huge.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what that means,
I
but that
know,
seems like a lot.
else,
And so what was their reaction then? Like, you did all this work, you're this young kid just, like sewing probably a bunch of like stuff. How did they respond?
yeah, they were flabbergasted and they were like, we honestly did not think you would be here. And I was like, no one tells me no. Like, there's always a way.
That no button. Anyone listening to this replay live or whatever, let us know. How do you feel about the word no? Please share your feelings on the word no. Brittany's going to be with us going through systems and answering a couple of questions here. Love to hear from you guys. So that no didn't work for you. No doesn't really work well for me either. So you get it done and your fashion career begins to grow, and it seemed like that went a retail direction for you. How did that, I'm curious to hear that point and how it landed into 6 retail stores across the country at such a young age.
Very, very quickly. So it was actually my very first, my debut fashion week. There happened to be a Nordstrom buyer in the audience. And she saw my line. She liked one of my pieces in particular and approached and wanted that. So then back then, who knows how it works now, but back then it was like, okay, I want you to come present in front of my buyers. But before you could even get your foot in the door, you had to have manufacturer backing because they, for some reason, didn't want just me on my little sewing machine. Like, yeah, I can back up all these weird concepts.
We got it, guys. What are you worried about?
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that sent me down this whole like rabbit hole of trying to find manufacturing. And back then it was all being outsourced to China. And that was like, you had 100,000 minimums. So it was like a roadblock after roadblock because I'm renting a studio apartment. I have 2 pennies to rub together, like fresh out of college, did not have money. So like while all this is going on and I'm doing the research and trying to figure it out, I am also hustling and running door to door, sewing on my machine, making my own line.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, quantities and going door to door and selling them at local boutiques. So I was growing that brand and doing that to have the income coming in while I was like trying to figure out manufacturing. So it was like a lot going on at the same time. But clearly I had nothing else to do. That's all I did was work. Yeah, and it was through then that actually I found manufacturing in Chicago, and it was crazy. So I was
when you're looking for manufacturing, you're looking across the country. You're like just cold calling and
anyone. I was like, anybody, like help me. And this was over a decade ago. So I mean, it was very different landscape than, right now, because then there was the big movement of bringing manufacturing and especially in the garment industry back to the States. But it was like, I was like, but does anybody know how to sew other than me? I was like, there's got to be a way. So
somebody out there. Isn't that like, it's so weird when you need, like, I know what I need is out there and there's actually a lot of them. Why is it so hard to find somebody? I'm sure everyone listening, watching, can relate to that. When you're looking for that service provider or that next employee or partner or whatever it is, and anyone just tuning in, we are going to be hitting some top 3 best practices from Brittany, and as it pertains to saving time, focusing on profit. But we got to keep going on the sales conversation a little bit more, being in the sales ascender spotlight here. So I'm curious. So you're hustling, you're going door to door, you're calling manufacturers. Trying to pull this all together. What was that first moment of like big sale, or like you finally made it a little bit, oh, this might just work. When did that moment happen for you?
Oh, that's a good question.
Specifically in manufacturing and retail and all that. Yeah.
Okay. I think so. The Chicago thing fell through. It was a mess. And I had sent all my fabrics, all my things there. And basically what the problem was, I was chump change to them because my orders not big enough that it kept getting on the back burner. So I went in my car and picked up all my fabric. I was like, I can get somewhere else. And they're like, okay, they didn't care. So I found in the middle of nowhere, Kansas, where I'm from, it was a manufacturer. I like saw their warehouse. I was looking for the word, and they had all the machines I needed. I was like, you have everything, but they didn't know how to sew clothes. So I teamed up with them, and I literally taught these warehouse workers how to sew my line. So that was probably one of the biggest steps, I think. And it was just going in. They sewed, I want to say it was like medical stuff. Like it was, it wasn't clothing. It was like anything you could sew that's not clothes. And so they were like, put in zippers backwards and upside down. And I was like, oh my God, we can do this. So it was painful, but we did it. So that was a big step, because sometimes you got to get a little scrappy. You got to get a little creative, and you make it work, right?
Brittany, I don't know if you or listeners, if viewers will be resonating with this, but I've been playing with this new term lately. Entrepreneurs are business artists. And it's, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, it's identifying a little bit more as an artist. And part of the reason is like, business is just a systematic way of delivering a product or service. But how you do it and the experience you create and how the journey along, like that's all the art. And when I hear your story, it's like, I just hear that new kind of idea or identity kind of playing. And I was like, you just made it all up. Like, well, they don't do this, but I'm going to make my own way here. And then it worked. And like, you formed the relationships. You literally created the clothing line and the design. Like, there's so much art that's taking place that did not happen before you came about. I know. How does some of that strike you?
Yeah, I love that. Because that's so true. And I probably still am. I was going to say I was a very bullheaded child. And I went in and I was very much like, I went to art school and I was like, I just want to design, and I don't care about business. Like that was whatever.
The feel. Yeah.
That is so true. Like it is business. Building a business is totally an art form, because everyone's a little bit different. I don't believe in, the cookie cutter, like this works for everybody. It's very much, so yeah, I really like that.
That's awesome. So you eventually morphed this manufacturer in Kansas into what you needed for your clothing line. And where does the retail part come into this?
So you think it's going one way and it's going to take another giant turn. Yeah. So it was through that manufacturer, as we're building out, and I'm showing at fashion weeks now across America, I think at this point. I'm not a little shady on the timeline. But there was a store called Chocolate Soup, and it had been taken over by, or repossessed, I don't know the right wording, by the bank, because they went under. And he was like, it's children's clothes. I know you don't want that, but I think it would be a really good opportunity. And I was like, And so it was me stepping in, and it was I think a 40-year-old company at that point.
Wow. That's okay. Yeah, compared to online world, 40 years.
Yeah, right. I know.
I've been online 6 years. Oh my gosh, you're a dinosaur. Right. Yeah. Okay. So chocolate soup, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Be interested to try that. But that's also clothing and not actual
food, like Campbell's soup. Yeah. And it was crazy. And they made it really big in the 80s. And it was a husband-wife team from Kansas City. And so they did really well, but then they expanded, and I think they went into the hotel industry and then started pulling money from it. It was a hot mess. So they got closed down. And so what was presented to me looked vastly different than what I actually.
Well, it sounds like they were in a tough spot and they had to sell, and they're like, I think this would be a great opportunity for me. I mean,
it was coming from the bank, because they had already.
Oh, because they already took. Okay, I did. Okay.
The bank, and the bank doesn't ever they don't ever want to keep anything, because it's just losing them money, because they don't have money to make.
They're not going to go sell the kids' clothes.
It was like. So I was like, okay. And still, though, keep in mind, I didn't have any money. So again, you got to get a little crafty.
That was a
So
thing.
I went in with a business partner, and I earned mine through sweat equity, which just means I will run it, I will manage it, I will essentially be working for mine rather than, going in and being the money, if that makes sense.
Got it. So you played the labor role and you found the money role, and the partnership was formed. Not parents or not your parents? Either is okay.
Yep, it was my dad. It was my dad.
He's your dad. That's cool. That's cool that he
hired, and I talked him out of retirement.
There you go. There you go. Go close the deal. Cool. So you find a way. You form the partnership, and now you're in your first retail store. Why, Brittany? Why would you open a second one, and then a third, and then a fourth, and then a fifth?
I think, and I could be totally wrong, this is so long ago, but I want to say they had 4 stores already at that point. I think.
So you took on 4 stores at one time.
So it was already, and a warehouse and an office building.
Oh my God.
2 warehouses actually. But we shut that one down and sold it. But yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was
okay.
a lot.
So this is kind of the piece and the part of the conversation that I know so I ran one insurance agency once upon a time. I had 5 employees. It was a smaller deal, but and obviously that's a different industry business than having retail with inventory, and there's different dynamics. But that brick and mortar local business type, as a local business owner type feel, that isn't completely unknown to me. So that said, and I was totally thinking about having multiple locations at one point, and all the payroll and all the logistics and all the stuff that comes with that. For you, if you don't have systems, you don't survive. And a lot of us business owners will do everything in our power to avoid them. I'm just curious, when was that shifting? What was that shift for you? And how did you, let's get into the top 3. What were the top 3 things that help you survive that?
Yeah. So I think a huge one is that it's like, there's 2 things. I'm going to tie 2 things in, but it's being profit focused. Because there's so many things that are shiny and exciting that we want to do, that are more exciting, but at the end of the day, it's actually not tied to bringing money in, and then we're just wasting our time, because if you're not making money as a business, it's a hobby.
It's a problem. I mean, a hobby, right?
Yeah. So I think just not being profit focused and not really clear on what those tasks are and what you're supposed to be doing. And then I was joking with you earlier, but it's where you're shoulding, where you think you should be doing something, or you think a business should look a certain way, and you fall into kind of those almost fear tactics where everyone's out there. You got to be everywhere. You got to do this. You got to do this. And you're like, oh, okay, I need that. And you panic. So just let all that go. Don't worry about it, and get super clear on what's bringing in your profit, and do more of that.
There you go. Okay. So a big part is where's your revenue? What's your revenue source? Your main revenue source? What if that's a product line? If that's a program or whatever it is, and then just simply do more of that. Crazy thought. But it's so easy. It's so easy to get distracted or think that when I do this, but then it's going to lead to maybe even prioritizing the methods of generating profit. I could see being a helpful thing as well. What else would you recommend?
Yeah, and I think definitely creating. I call them you don't want to be a manual Millie or a manual Mark.
Manual Mark. Okay.
An automatic Annie or an automatic Andrew. So we don't want to be creating anything from scratch. And I'm like cutthroat about this. Like, if you do it more than twice, it should have a system in place. So that can be as simple as a bullet point list of, step 1, step 2, step 3. Like, it doesn't need to be techie. It doesn't need to be overcomplicated, but creating your own processes and really streamlining that. And then when you can, automating it, because that's when you can start, freeing up your time and getting back to what is bringing you in profit. So you're not being just taken over.
What are some of the best, I'd like to kind of hang on that just for a second and dive into how. So for example, if you're bringing on a new employee, if you're bringing on a new product line, if you're, what are some of the best tools or practices? Like, where are you putting your SOPs? How are you creating them? How are you sharing and educating your team on these?
Yeah. So one of my favorite tips, because so many people, it's like when they're ready to hire, then it becomes a whole new project of like, oh, well, now I have to teach them. And then they're already out of time, which is why they're hiring someone in the first place. And it's like,
It's funny how that works.
catch 22. So one of my favorite things to do is just integrate it rather than treating it as another project. Integrate it into what you're already doing. So tomorrow morning, you start your day off and just start documenting exactly what you're doing and creating those systems. So by the time you're a month in, you've already just done what you normally do, but now you have something tangible that you can hand off to somebody else. So when you're ready to, outsource or hire on or whatever that looks like for you, you're going to have something in place already. So it's not then just like scramble mode. And for me, I'm a huge fan of Trello. I've got for all three of my businesses, we have Trello boards and we've got, international teams. So it's very easy to track people and your projects and swipe files, links, even email templates, like whatever things you're finding yourself using all the time, like that's a really great and free tool that you can be using that makes it very simple and clean and easy to find.
Okay, so you're a big Trello fan. Anyone listening, watching, hey, let us know. Just curious, what is your favorite tool? Your project management tool, or I don't know, any other organization tool that you've been using? Brittany, for you, it's been Trello, and you're using Trello. Great tip there. Well, how do you feel about when to hire like a VA or a EA, even to start documenting processes? Or I know that that's something that we recently tried, and I was like, oh, this actually helped quite a bit. I like record a couple things that I'm already doing, and then she's actually shout out to Hannah the Great. We make messes and she sanitizes them. Is kind of our our like internal talk, and yeah, I don't. Your take on that? Would you recommend? Is that like a first hire you would recommend as an assistant? Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think especially, the online world, I feel like we are, especially coming from the brick and mortar scene, we are very, very spoiled. And so, yeah, I think a VA 9 out of 10 is the best hire that you can find. And I mean, every business is different. So maybe something might be a little bit more priority. It really depends on what you don't like doing. I'm a huge fan of stick to where you thrive and stick what you're good at, and then start outsourcing the rest. And so it's not abdicating it, but really just delegate that stuff off so you can kind of hone in on what you enjoy and what's, again, bringing in the profit in your business. So VA is a really, really great first hire because it can be kind of those, the catch-alls where you've got a lot of stuff, the bits and pieces that, you've got your own systems or ways you've liked it done, but you really just don't have the time or the space to be doing those yourself anymore.
It's such a good reminder. Do the things that you want to do. If just as business owners, we're entrepreneurs, leaders, we're doing our thing. Like, if we're not happy, if we're not enjoying it, it's our freaking fault. And I hate that that's true, but it really is. Like, we get to make up the rules and replace us where we don't want to be. So that's a really helpful reminder that you're sharing there. This is great. Some other time savers. I know those are two there. Is there another one that comes to mind for you?
Yeah. So one that I run into a lot with my clients is creating really that scalable foundation, because so oftentimes, especially in the beginning stages, we're just trading time for dollars, which is great, gets things going and moving. But then no matter what, you're going to hit that glass ceiling, and then you're going to have to rework everything essentially because you only got so many hours in the day. So I'm just a really big fan, especially if you're getting started. Why not build it out correctly the first time, and create that really scalable foundation? And so that's why I love the online world, because it's so easy to be able to really leverage our knowledge rather than our time. And that makes it endless opportunities and expansion, to where you can really grow and scale your business, but it's not tied to your schedule. And, personally as a mom, that's really, really important to me.
So let's talk about that piece for a second. Being a business owner, being a mom, and let's go right to the calendar, because that's like the overwhelming place. It shows kind of the truth of how time's really being spent. If anyone has done time studies, love and hate those. But your calendar, how many hours per week roughly are you working right now?
Okay, you can't get mad. So right now, and so my youngest, she just turned 1.
Yep.
I am still very much fluid. It changes. We had a part-time nanny, and we lost her. I think it was,
Ah,
yeah, yeah,
no.
that was my reaction too. Like a month ago. And she was amazing. Hi, Paige. She's now actually my personal assistant. I had to keep her. I loved
Oh,
her so much, but she moved. So she was here in Germany. She moved back to America. That's why we lost her. But
got it. Okay.
that point, I was working 3 days a week,
Okay.
and she would come and watch the kids. Now that we lost Paige, I am working 5 days a week, but only an hour and a half to 2 hours a day because I
Okay.
get one nap to get it all done.
Right. So, and yet you're still successfully running companies. And so for me and my dynamic, my wife stays at home. We have 3 kids. I work many more hours than that. But that's what is, I think, really powerful for your story to share with other people is sales are happening, business is happening. You have to operate different because you have to operate different. And I know that what you've created out of that will serve, selfishly myself and our listeners and viewers. So, um,
Yeah.
what like walk us through that? You're working not a ton. What are you doing in those hours? What are the systems you have running? How is this working, Brittany? Please enlighten us.
Yeah. So yeah, I've got chocolate soup still, but most of that I am essentially hands off at this point. So
Yeah.
I brought my sister in, kept it in the family. So all the products, everything's in Kansas. I don't do anything with shipping. I don't do anything with
Mm,
anything anymore. So
okay.
very hands off with that. And then Simply Happy Life, where I'm a business coach and I've got business programs and courses. Everything's automated. So I've got sales funnels. So I bring people in and I've got sales when I don't even talk to people. Just get the little notifications on my phone. I'm like, cool. And then go back to snack time. So for that, I've got coaching, which is 1 hour a month. And as that grows, we might have to add to it. But that is my out of pocket time commitment. And other than
Yeah.
that, I've got a team. I've got an awesome team. You can't do it by yourself. It's all about networking and delegating. I've got a personal assistant. I've got a VA. I've got 2 girls that are dedicated just to my business program that they can help answer questions. They can help
Support.
with support and doing all those things. And then another business that's really, really new just this year that I'm doing, it's a joint venture. So not just myself, but it's a whole team of us. And so it's really, again, you have to be priority and profit focused. And so depending what business needs the attention that day, that will be, the one project that I do. I'm a huge fan. I always pick top 3. So every day I have 3 things that I get done for the whole day. And it doesn't matter whether it's business or it's personal related because there's only one me.
That can do the top 3. Yeah.
That's it. That's all I can do. So yeah, it looks drastically different than those old days when I was, sewing around the clock to get to those fashion weeks, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. I think it's just a very different mentality. So rather than thinking that you do have to do it all, it's picking what you like to do and what you enjoy to do, and then creating systems and creating a really solid team to support everything else.
So powerful, so powerful. Well, hopefully this has been encouraging and inspiring for other business owners, entrepreneurs, and leaders to hear. That's what we'd like to focus on the Spotlight series is real business owners solving real problems. And the fact that you're only working like an hour and a half, couple hours a day, running multiple businesses, sales they're all they're profitable, they're working, is a huge success. So, and you're in Germany now. Is that what you said?
Stuttgart, yep, Germany.
Yeah. So, a very inspiring story, Brittany. For all those, just like myself, kind of leaning in. Where can they find you if they want to talk to you more?
Yeah, simplyhappylife.com is kind of the hub to everything right now. And then I hang out on Instagram mostly, and now Clubhouse. That's the new. But Simply Happy Brittany on both of those, and you can come say hi. I hang out. Basically, I post a lot of pictures of my kids, so hopefully, if you like that, come find me.
That's what to expect. Well, the last question I usually like to focus on um, is impact. It's more legacy driven, and the sacrifice, the focus, the just all the lessons that you've had to persevere through. My big question for all leaders and entrepreneurs is why? Why go through it all? Why put yourself through it all? So for you personally, what drives you?
Yeah, so I think what drove me in the very start is very different than now. So I will answer the now one. But why I even named my second company Simply Happy Life was because to me, a Simply Happy Life was that financial, but also that schedule freedom. It's the ability to really just enjoy and be present with your family and enjoy the life that you've built rather than, the hustle mentality where you can't even have fun with your friends and family because you're just go, go, go. So for me, that's really, what it's about. And I've got daughters, so I want my daughters to be able to see that they can do that, doing what they love one day. So that's what it
Well,
is.
will they be or I was going to say will they be running their own business, but I really should ask, are they running their own business already?
The oldest is 6 and she's already had like 5 ideas. So yeah, I
Have
wouldn't.
you passed down the family sewing machine at this point? Because you were 7 when you first.
It died before we moved to.
No.
I know. I'm like, no. So it had a good 20 some years, but yeah.
I once you get to that 3 decade mark, sewing machines tend to manufacturers just aren't what they used to be. Yeah, that's awesome. Brittany, thank you so much for taking some of your valuable time, spending it with us, and sharing some insight and experience that you've gone through to help us live a simpler and happier life, just like yourself.
I love it. No, thank you so much for having me.